Welcome back to the Insider's Film School, where we master film analysis one concept at a time. Today we're making sense of editing and how effective sequencing of shots can make meaning without a single spoken word. What makes this one of the more challenging elements of film to analyse is the fact that editors go to great lengths to make editing invisible. Except when they don't. In this lesson, you'll learn to spot and read every edit. Before we get started, I always like to take this opportunity to say a massive thank you to my patrons and members. They keep this channel alive with their support, and get exclusive access to the next episode in this series, and access to the community Discord server, so we can talk about films and stuff.
Whoa. Here I come. Here I come.
Right, let's have a nice slow fade to black signaling the end of the intro before we smash cut into something shocking to grab your attention in the next segment. I told you that was coming. So, when I'm introducing editing in film class, I find it's helpful to approach it from what preceded it. Welcome to the birth of cinema, where there's no sound, no colour, and most importantly, no editing. Films at the turn of the 20th century were single-take scenes, capturing all the action within one shot, like a theatre stage. The idea of interrupting a shot to jump to another hadn't even been considered yet. Just capturing a moving scene was enough to wow audiences. Soon though, early film pioneers noticed by chance that when they stopped cranking the camera in one location and then started it again in another, they achieved an effect that we now know as the cut. Believe it or not, the many uses of this one simple device, the cut, is all we're looking at today. At first, filmmakers used it to extend the film world beyond the confines of a single location and act as an ellipsis, so we could skip time and space in a heartbeat. But the real potential for editing became apparent when cutting began being used within a scene. Look at this early short film by George Albert Smith. What if we cut from a full shot of a boy looking through a looking glass to a close-up of an object? This pioneering use of an eyeline match cut expanded film language to include "this is what the character can see." And here in The Great Train Robbery, Edwin S. Porter used the cut to show two separate scenes happening at the same time, with a common technique we'll later know as crosscutting. In each case, meaning isn't just being made by what we see in the shot, but also by its juxtaposition with the one that came before it. This is the result of a phenomenon called the Kuleshov Effect, named for Russian filmmaker Lev Kuleshov, who noticed that the meaning of the same shot, in my example here the Union Jack, changes depending on what we cut to, be it Winston Churchill, a skinhead, or a Spice Girl. Therefore, and this is the real crux of today's lesson, analysing editing is a simple case of identifying what we cut from and what we cut to, and then when the cut happens. So the next logical question is, what do we cut from and to? Well, there are broadly two approaches you'll find in film: continuity editing and expressive editing. Continuity editing, as the name suggests, favours a linear, easy to follow style. The goal here is to make every cut invisible for immersive viewing. For example, look at how Hitchcock shows a logical sequence of events, almost like a picture book in this scene. It's an incredibly intuitive style that developed in the days of silent cinema, where show don't tell was the only option until sound came along. But the truth is, it's so effective that it's still the dominant style of editing in mainstream films today. Now, film wouldn't be an art form if its artists didn't start trying to break the rules that they made for themselves. So the second approach to editing, expressive, does just that and intentionally draws attention to the cut. It emerged from avant-garde filmmakers like those of the French New Wave, Soviet cinema, and various indie directors. Perhaps a more intellectual form of cutting, the scope with expressive editing is huge, but requires a bit more thinking on the audience's part, and can even be quite jarring.
Here is a man who would not take it anymore, who would not...
Now, it's important to note here that neither approach is correct or better than the other, but as you'll see, they produce very different effects. Hence, modern filmmakers tend to use them in tandem when a scene calls for a particular style.
Déjà vu.
So that's the history lesson over. We now need to know the specific editing techniques you'll find in each of these styles, and what they typically mean. First up, appropriately, is the establishing shot, which confusingly sounds more like a shot type than an edit, but the point here is the placement of the shot at the very start of a scene. It's usually a wide shot of the location, and you can think of it as a visual version of a slug line, or Once Upon a Time in a creepy old mansion, or Gotham, or the French countryside, or whatever. The purpose of an establishing shot is very simply to provide context. It tells us where we are before moving into the scene. Sometimes a director may intentionally forego the establishing shot to leave us feeling as lost and discombobulated as the characters. Next, we'll be needing to cut within a scene as action unfolds, and the best way to do this for continuity is with match on action. This is when a physical action such as opening a door or drawing a weapon, even something as simple as a head turn, disguises the cut. Here it is used in Dr. No. Just look at how seamless each cut is. Because we're so focused on the action, we barely notice the cut. Match on action doesn't necessarily make a great deal of meaning in itself, but it can help direct the spectator's eye towards a particular character or action that we aren't meant to miss. Next, to show a character's perspective, we may use an eyeline match, where we have a shot of a character looking at something off screen, and the cut to what they can see, either as a point of view or over the shoulder. No different to the looking glass example from over 100 years ago, this seamlessly communicates what they can see, and when we cut back, we'll often see their reaction to what they've seen. This cut really demonstrates how each shot is a response to the one that came before it, and it's a common tool filmmakers use to offer us a more subjective view of the world and position us with a specific character. Next, we're likely to have some conversations between characters, and for this we'll probably use the shot reverse shot. This is when we cut from shot 1 to shot 2 and repeat.
Oh, looks like this beach was a little too much beach for you, Ken.
If I wasn't severely injured, I would beat you off right now, Ken.
I'll beach off with you any day, Ken.
Hold my ice cream, Ken.
While this may at first appear to be the most straightforward cut in all of cinema, there are a few ways that it can make meaning. Firstly, how are each of the subjects in the shot reverse shot framed? This links very closely with cinematography, but remember, we're interested in juxtaposition. Take a look at this shot reverse shot from Taxi Driver. Notice that Travis is always isolated in a single, but the person he's speaking to is either over the shoulder or surrounded by people. He lacks the social connections that everyone else seems to enjoy. It's also interesting to note who has more screen time, be it the speaker or the listener, which can alter our perspective on the exchange.
Closer, please. Closer.
In moments of intimidation, we may linger on the listener to see their reaction.
Müssen Mademoiselle Mimieux oder ich uns Sonnen machen.
Hans, der Junge war jetzt nicht böse. Er hat sich vergafft in die Kleine.
We may linger on the speaker to prioritize their perspective. Most of the time though, it's simply used to show the back and forth of a conversation. Finally, consider how and when the framing changes within shot reverse shots to reflect the narrative of the conversation, like when a long exchange between characters suddenly switches to close-ups. Is it because something significant has been said? Does it mark a turning point or a power shift in the conversation?
I know you remember it.
Your name is on the memorial wall of the very building you attacked.
Now this is a good time to mention the 180-degree rule. When cutting within a scene, such as with dialogue, continuity editing states that you shouldn't cross the invisible line of action. Crossing the line changes the perspective and quickly disorientates the audience. When this rule is broken, it's usually for good reason, like in Parasite when Jessica crosses the line between her and Mrs. Park.
솔직히 말씀을 드리면
And finally, we have crosscutting, which we've already encountered in The Great Train Robbery. This is when two separate scenes are intercut to show parallel action in different locations. Sometimes it's used to leave the audience hanging on a pivotal moment in one scene, while the fix or repair is delayed in another, like this tense scene in the ring.
Come on, Noah! Pick up the goddamn phone!
Other times we may cross-cut across scenes to offer further juxtaposition, like the image of Mark Coleman brutally fighting in the ring, cross-cut with Mark Kerr receiving stitching after a similar beating in his match. Now when it comes to expressive editing, the jump cut is a great place to start because of how jarring it is. This is when a segment of a shot is removed, making the action appear to skip or jump. Brought to the mainstream by the French New Wave director Jean-Luc Godard, this cut may be used to skip a long passage of time, a fractured memory, or more broadly to feel more meta-realist. When we see the cut right in front of us, the illusion of the film world is shattered, and we are reminded this is just a film made by real people. Next, you'll remember from the start of this video the smash cut. This also draws attention to the cut, but by using sharply contrasting imagery. Whereas continuity editing tries to soften the cut with match-on action within the same space, a smash cut deliberately smashes our current continuity with an opposite, be it color, shot distance, or even sound. The effect here is often alarming, disarming, or shocking. And finally, we come to perhaps the most expressive form of editing, the montage. Like every other edit we've seen, this is all about the juxtaposition between shots. But in this case, we may well cut to imagery that evokes the same feeling or tone as the main timeline. The most famous example is Battleship Potemkin, particularly the Odessa step sequence. Here, Einstein cuts between multiple fragments of the chaos. The fleeing crowd, the marching soldiers, the falling pram, the close-ups of terrified faces, not to follow a single character, but to build an overwhelming emotional impression. In more extreme examples, montage may include cuts to seemingly unrelated imagery that communicates meaning. Here's one of my favourite examples from 2001. When early man discovers that they can use tools, in this case weapons, we cut from him smashing bones with his new power to a shot of other members of the animal kingdom falling, suggesting this one discovery kick-started man's dominance of the planet. So, these are the edits that you need to look out for, and just how meaning is made through juxtaposition. But one final area that we need to talk about is the tempo of the cutting. Without worrying about what we cut from and to, or what type of cut we use, pay attention to when we cut in these examples. Clearly, the rhythm or tempo of cutting is able to convey meaning as well. At its most simple, fast-paced cutting can increase the intensity of action sequences, and slow cutting can focus our attention more on subtleties of the performance. But this definitely isn't a one-size-fits-all idea. Sometimes fast cutting can be passionate or exciting. Sometimes minimal cutting can make us feel helpless when an attack is unfolding lifelike in front of us. Simply put, as well as paying attention to what we cut from and to, you also need to think about how long it is between cuts. In short, what energy does this give us? Special mention here has to go to the option that overrides every single idea we've discussed so far, the continuous shot, when there is a noticeable lack of editing. Directors use this sparingly, and always with intent. A continuous shot can trap us in the moment, refusing to let us look away or mentally reset. It can heighten tension by denying us the relief of a cut, or it can pull us deeper into a character's experience by making the scene feel real-time and unbroken. Sometimes it's a technical showcase, but at its best, it's a storytelling choice. placing us right in the space, with no escape, no manipulation, and no chance to breathe.
Ryan, you hear me?
So, we're nearly at the end of this lesson. Now we understand how editing makes meaning through juxtaposition, cut types, and tempo. But how do we practically use this to analyze film? Well, here's a model based on 3 T's that you might find useful when you're new to analyzing editing: tone, tempo, technique. First up, what's the emotional tone or narrative purpose of the scene? As we've said in other lessons, the various elements of film form are used to establish this tone. So starting with the outcome and working backwards is often really helpful. If the scene is meant to be intimidating, we need to look at how the editing contributes to this tone. Next, consider the tempo. Are the cuts generally fast, steady, slow, or non-existent? Is it consistent throughout the scene, or does it speed up or slow down? How does this help achieve the tone? Finally, look at the technical cutting within the scene. Broadly speaking, are they establishing continuity, or are they expressive? What specific cuts are being used, and how does the juxtaposition between shot 1 and shot 2 make meaning? Does it favour a particular character, positioning us with them? Does it answer or build upon the information in the previous shot? Another technique you may find useful is to break down a scene into a storyboard, allowing you to visualise every single cut in one. This really helps to see editing as a big picture, and you'll be amazed at the little details you'll notice when doing this. I'll be posting a separate video outlining how to use this technique exclusively for members and patrons, so be sure to check that one out too. There we have it. As always, I like to finish off by recommending a masterclass example of the topic in action, and it would be remiss of me to not suggest a Hitchcock film. This time I'm going with Psycho. Hitchcock is the perfect filmmaker to study here because he believed the film should still make complete sense even if the sound were turned off. Meaning for him, editing and visual sequencing were the true language of cinema. Psycho is a brilliant case study in how that philosophy plays out across the entire film. From the early motel sequences that build unease through precise pacing and rhythm, to the shocking fragmentation of the shower scene, every cut controls what we know, when we know it, and how we feel. Even the quieter scenes are meticulously structured to guide our perspective and sustain tension. Psycho proves that great editing isn't just about hiding cuts or drawing attention to them, it's about shaping meaning purely through image and rhythm. So that's it for this lesson, guys. I hope you found it useful. If you've made it this far, please do me a favor and press the like button. It tells YouTube that this is a video that film fans like you may find helpful, and it tells me that this is the kind of content you want to see more of. If you can't wait for the next lesson on how to analyze sound, remember you can access that right now if you're a member or patron, and I'll look forward to seeing you in the next one. Bye for now.
Hasta la vista, baby.